behavior is one of the ways children communicate. And I want to say this again. Behavior is one of the ways children communicate. So often, adults will perceive children's behavior, particularly behavior that's not pleasing to you, as something that the child is doing for attention, to manipulate, to cause harm, or to disobey. And I want to make very clear, this is something that comes from our own experiences of life. They were the things that at some point in your life, you were told this is acceptable behavior and this is not acceptable behavior. And you're giving meaning to the child's behavior. So you're actually giving meaning to it. Okay. In your mind, you've created a story about why the child is behaving in a particular way. And it's important for us to recognize that we give meaning to children's behaviors. Okay. The second thing we need to become aware of is that so often we expect children to behave a certain way. And so often those expectations are developmentally inappropriate. So an example is we expect them to sit for way too long to do a task or an activity like group time, circle times. Do you know that circle time should not extend 15 minutes, more than 15 minutes? Any time a group experience, 10 to 15 minutes max. That's it. And at the beginning of the school year, if you have like a start where children transition into your school year, it's like 3 to 5 minutes. That's it. So we're asking them to do things that are developmentally inappropriate and then holding them accountable for stuff that they shouldn't even be able to do yet. Some kids can, but that doesn't mean we should hold that behavior as an expectation for everyone. Okay? Another example is standing in lines, or we limit the time that they get to have certain experiences. And so we move them along centers or activities, 10 minutes switch, 10 minutes switch. That's developmentally inappropriate. Another thing is where we expect children to work first. So maybe doing a worksheet or a particular task, and then they can play. That is developmentally inappropriate. Okay? Children's play is their work. So when we have these expectations and children misbehave, that's not on them. That's on us for not being aware of what is developmentally appropriate and aligning our expectations with what is appropriate. Okay? Another thing is that our bias, all of our biases that we have, play a real important role in how we perceive what we're observing. Now, we all have biases, and that'll be another video, but we all have biases. And sometimes we perceive behaviors, for example, a boy doing something as opposed to a girl doing something. And the way that we interpret that is influenced by our bias. Or behaviors of a black boy or a brown boy, we perceive it and make sense of it and give meaning to it differently than if we see a white boy doing the exact same thing, or a girl for that matter. And I know when I say that, you're thinking, oh, no way, I don't do that. Well, the thing is that we have biases that we are completely unaware of. These are called implicit biases. We're unconscious of it, and our brain just automatically does this. And it plays into how we think about and how we respond to behaviors. Okay? So I'm going to tell you a story about my daughter. And she was 4 years old, and we had gone to the grocery store, and this was a little tiny grocery store. It was called Fresh and Easy, and it's like smaller than a Trader Joe's. Okay, so if you can imagine the size of Trader Joe's, it was smaller than that. And we had gone that particular day I was trying to help my daughter know that when we go grocery shopping to this store, we're going to stick to a list that we go to, to buy things. And the reason why is because we were riding our bike to this store. And sometimes I would get there and there would be things on sale, and because they would mark down things in the middle of the day. And so I ended up getting too many things, and we're on bikes because it was in my neighborhood. And I couldn't carry the bags on the bike and be thinking about her because we were near a busy road. So I would end up calling my husband, and I'm like, come pick us up because I bought too many things. And it was just getting ridiculous. So I said to my daughter, okay, we're going to make a list of the things that we're going to get when we go to the grocery store, and we're not going to get anything outside of this list. And which was, not what we usually did, but I was trying to create a new pattern, right? So we get to the grocery store, she's 4, and I'm at the shopping cart going down the aisle where there's like the dairy, yogurt, cottage cheese, that kind of thing. And she sees her favorite yogurt and she says, Mama, can I get that yogurt? And it's like a yogurt, right? Just throw it in the bag, whatever, right? And then I thought to myself, okay, I said we were only going to get the things off the list. And we created a list before we came. And in order to start this new pattern, clear expectations, I need to follow through. So I say, Mija, we are not going to get that yogurt because the yogurt isn't on our list. So I explained to her what we were doing and why we were doing it. And I had already done that, but we forget because we're in the moment and we see something we like. And then I see it, the lip quivering. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Like, it's coming, right? It's coming. So the lip starts to quiver, and then the tears start to form, and I know where we're going, right? And so I say, you really, really want the yogurt. And it looks like you might be feeling really sad because you want this yogurt so bad. It's your favorite yogurt. And she's like, and she starts to cry. And in this tiny little grocery store, she yells these words, I'm hungry. You never feed me. I'm always hungry and you're not getting me my yogurt. And so in that store, in this moment, tiny little store, where now everybody is looking at us, right? And I've seen this many times over with other parents and they're like, just take it, whatever, right? And I realize that she's not giving me a hard time. She's not trying to embarrass me. She's not trying to manipulate me. She's not trying to coerce me. She's simply saying what she feels. She's not giving me a hard time. She's having a hard time. So she's screaming and she's crying, and everyone in this little tiny store can hear that. And I stay calm and I recognize that she really wants the yogurt and she gets to have her emotions. She gets to have this experience and she gets to cry and be sad and feel all of the things she's feeling. Like, she gets to do that because she's a human being and she deserves to feel what she feels. She gets to have that. So I stay calm and I'm nodding and I'm at her level. So I'm not looking down at her. I'm standing at her level and she's just a mess, right? And I say to her, I know you really, really want the yogurt. And her becomes a smaller cry. And then I'm getting judgment. Mind you, I'm getting judgment from everybody in the store looking at me. And that's a whole nother story, but I'm getting judgment. And I actually respond to the judgment. I go, oh, she really wants the yogurt. And they just kind of turn away. Didn't expect me to say that, right? And her big cries become a more softer cry and a softer cry. And then it becomes a, right? And I'm still there. And I'm still accepting. And I'm still with her. And I'm allowing these emotions to move through her and out so that it doesn't stay stuck. And I'm allowing her to have the voice and to say and to feel what she needs to feel. Okay. I didn't have to take that personal. That wasn't about me. She wasn't trying to manipulate. She wasn't trying to do any of those things. She's simply having a difficult moment because she wants the yogurt. Do you see the perspective that I have chosen to take? It's all about the meaning that we give behaviors. We give meaning to everything. And I could have easily been like, what's the matter with you? You know not to act like that at the store. I told you this at home that we weren't going to buy. I could have easily done that. But what that would have done, it would have shut down her emotional state. She would have pushed it down, and that actually stays stuck in the body. Okay? Different session. We'll get through that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. I promise. But what she needed is for me to do what's called co-regulation. I'm the calm so that she can find her calm. But I have to be aware that my perception of the situation is critically important. Okay? So I want to go back to what I said before. Behavior is one of the ways children communicate. And we've got to really understand this. Children are not attention seeking. They are connection seeking. When we understand that, we can start to open our hearts. So I'm going to say that again. Children are not attention seeking. They are connection seeking. Okay? Really, really important for us to remember that. See, our role as early educators is to be open-hearted and to be willing to see the amazingness in every single child. It's the only way that we can attune to their needs. Now, let me tell you what attunement is. Attunement is like dialing into all the ways a child is expressing their needs. And let's talk about babies for a moment. A baby's utterance might mean they want to connect with you. A high-pitched cry might mean they're in distress or uncomfortable. Kicking their legs and scrunching as they cry might mean that they have a bit of gas. See, with babies, we're like, oh yeah, I got that. I get that. That's the way they tell us what they need. The same is true for our older kids, for our toddlers, our preschoolers, and even our school agers. That skill of tuning in is what we need to do. Their behavior, the thing that we're observing them do, is them communicating with us. And it's like an iceberg. This behavior that we see happening is one way to get our attention. And I don't mean like attention like they're seeking attention, but it makes us notice, right? And so our job then is to key into what might be happening below the surface of the water, because this is what we see, but what's really happening? That's the key. What's really happening when the child's struggling, standing at the door ready to go outside? What's really happening when the child's having a difficult time at circle time? Are the expectations what they like? Are we expecting something that we shouldn't be expecting for this particular child? So we've got to start to uncover what the child is communicating. Maybe the child doesn't feel safe or loved or connected or seen. Or maybe the child doesn't have the language to express what they need. Or maybe they don't have the pause between reacting and responding. Okay? Like they are, wah, to, I would really like to use that. They don't have that yet. Because this is something that's developing in the early years and beyond the early years, quite honestly. Okay? So when a child is beginning to get frustrated, their thinking and reasoning part of their brain goes completely offline. And the brain literally does that, which is amazing, right? So you have to think, what is it that they're communicating with me? What are they needing? What skills do they need support in developing? That's our role. That's our responsibility as early educators. Okay? Now, let's talk about biting, for example, because I love talking about biting. Now, we have to start with perception, okay? Because you give meaning to what you are observing based on who you are, your lived experience, okay? So a child bites another child. Very common behavior, right? Very, very common behavior in the early years. Okay. And so I'm making meaning of this. I go, oh, that's a horrible thing. Look at all the other children who are getting hurt. He needs to stop. And this is where we're actually like suspending and expulsion, like kicking kids out when they're toddlers. Okay. Because we're like, this is a very, very horrible thing. And is it a horrible thing? Well, yeah, we don't want other children to be hurt. But let me tell you what my perspective is. Okay. Because you make meaning of what you are observing. My perspective is, what a brilliant child this is. And they've got it all figured out. Okay, so this is how it plays out. I want that toy, but she has that toy. And I don't know how to say it. Maybe my brain, I don't have those self-regulation skills just yet because I'm still working on it because I'm a little kid still. And so I don't have that part within me developed yet where I go, oh, I want that. So the way that I get that is XYZ. I say this and I do this. Like, I don't have that just yet. Right? Or maybe I kind of am developing that awareness, but I don't have the language for lots of reasons. I don't know the words, or the words are difficult for me to say, or it takes me too long to get those words pulled together for me to be able to actually say them. And so there's lots of things happening in that moment, right? And so then I go, okay, but I want that toy. And so I put my teeth on the child's arm and hand or whatever. And then the child lets it go, cries, ah, lets go of the toy, or moves out of the way, or, whatever the case may be. And the child sees the toy drop to the floor, and it's like, ta-da! I did it. I got the toy. And that, my friends, is brilliance. I do this, cause and effect. I do this, kid drops a toy, I get to use it now. Okay? Perspective is everything. You can look at a behavior and go, oh my goodness, it's just horrible and I can't believe he's doing this and how many times do we have to say it? Or you can go, I wonder what's happening here. I wonder what's going on. I wonder what is happening below the surface of the water, underneath the behavior. What is the child communicating with me? And so I think, what's the underlying reason they're biting? Can I pay close attention to notice if there's any other tells, like the body language, movement, things happening in a few seconds before, where a child's eye focus or where their focused attention is? What are the skills that the child is developing or needing support in developing? Maybe it is language. Maybe the words to communicate, maybe offering ways that maybe are not just verbal, but some sign language that might help the child as well. So we have to think about, what is the child communicating? Why? What is the need here? The unmet need? What might be happening beneath the surface of the behavior? And what can I do to support the skills that the child needs to be able to feel more successful in this experience? How do I help the child feel loved and safe so that we can develop these skills that the child needs? Or maybe I have expectations that are clearly not developmentally appropriate. Or could this be my bias playing into it? Okay, so we need to stop. We need to stop with just seeing a behavior and reacting to the behavior. Okay, there is so much more that we have to think about, because behavior is the way a child communicates their needs with you. So you've got to go, okay, what is the child communicating right now? And when you attune to them, when you lean in and you really, really observe closely all of the ways the child is communicating, body language, tone, actions, then you're better able to understand how to support the child.